Welcome to Go Home Heat, a wrestling podcast. This is a special event, a retro
wrestling review.
Retro wrestling
of WrestleMania 24.
WrestleMania 24.
2008.
A vintage year. A good year.
Yes, good year.
Like a fine wine.
Batman came out.
The Dark Knight came out.
Correct, not Batman.
Yes. That was the time we were electing. Well, we were about to see we can see John McCain versus Barack Obama in the polls.
Yes.
That's all. That's literally everything. Poker Face. That is all I know.
Gaga.
That's all I remember from the year 2008. I was in the 5th grade.
Saliva and Alter Bridge are theme songs during this show.
As they should be.
Okay, and it's mainly the main event, of course, would be Taker and Edge. We would have a co-main event of Hunter, Orton and Cena, and then, of course, the last match in WWE of Ric Flair, and we're going to mow through all of that.
No, could we just get into why I decided?
Why did you decide we should do this, Ray?
I didn't. It was a dual effort between me and you.
Okay.
Basically, but I brought up because if you think of the popular WrestleManias, like WrestleMania X7 is brought up a lot of times as the greatest pay-per-view of all time, and I was just thinking to myself, well, is it even the greatest WrestleMania of all time? And I still haven't watched WrestleMania X7. I need to get to that, but I feel like there are a lot of WrestleManias that go underappreciated, underrated, if that is the correct term.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this WrestleMania is one of those.
You know, I've never heard of this WrestleMania. I've never heard of the Ric Flair retirement match. But I do see, it's the thing where, like, you know of this match.
But you don't know that match.
Name.
Right? People don't even talk about Taker. Taker's wrestling Edge. And
no
people
one
don't even talk
that.
about that, right?
Well, there's a Money in the Bank ladder match that was insane, but no one remembers that.
Right. Everything's Ric Flair.
Match.
There's that one thing. Yes, sir.
Well, this did come also with the Taker thing. It came out just the year before Shawn Taker,
right?
Which is a match a lot of people cite as one of the greatest matches ever wrestled.
Right.
I think it's hard to disagree, really.
Correct. They're fixing to go on a tear after this. Okay.
Oh yeah, Taker is like on both Taker and Shawn were on a streak at this point.
Right.
Another streak for you.
Yeah.
Now this pay-per-view opens up with we are not going to talk about the shenanigans or the
segments.
Pomp and circumstance that happens around every Mania. You had John Legend singing American Beautiful, that kind of thing. But we'll start with the opening match, which is a thing that happens in WWE. You have JBL versus Fit Finlay. The story around said match is that Hornswoggle was supposed to be Vince McMahon's illegitimate son and turned out to be Finlay's illegitimate son, which somehow winds up being a fight between them. All that aside, this is a Belfast brawl, and you have two of the better stiff, hard-hitting workers in wrestling at that moment in time, beating the snot out of each other. It ends with a simple but spectacular move that won JBL a couple of championships called the Clothesline from Hell. He was an acolyte at one time, so that is part of that. An acolyte for The Undertaker. I don't know if he was his child. That would be different.
You know, if he was an acolyte for The Undertaker.
I love it. Straight clothesline, all 270 pounds of them going right through your throat, putting you away. I love that move.
Clothesline from Hell is one of my favorite moves ever.
Yeah.
Just straight up. Just the way
it's vicious.
JBL, and because of that move, it is very enabling, I don't know the term, of how JBL wrestles as a whole. He wrestles really stiff.
It is a microcosm of a macrocosm,
yes.
I might say.
Symptomatic.
I feel like
that's another word.
I feel like now every time I see JBL show up in like a wrestling compilation, I'm like, man, someone's about to get murdered.
Right.
You know?
Right. If he's showing up, somebody's getting murdered. And they beat the snot out of each other here. You like the match?
Yes. While the storyline was kind of crap, this was a pretty solid brawl.
I thought so too. You?
You know, we watched this without having any we went into it basically cold. Like I'm vaguely familiar with the storylines going on in these matches of any of them. I'm just watching them strictly as an in-ring storytelling perspective, and as such, I enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed the shillelagh usage. I'm a fan of a shillelagh.
Well, yeah, kind of bad that the heel winds up going over clean though. Yeah. Well, everything's clean when it's a no holds barred.
Yeah, especially when like you got. Man, there's so many headshots in this, and they made me go, "It's that time."
Mm-hmm. Well, also there's not really a chair headshot though. It's just like trash cans.
A lot of trash cans, but still, it just makes you go, "Hey!" Every time you see it.
Money in the Bank ladder match. We have Jericho, who is the creative mind that created Money in the Bank ladder matches. Mm-hmm. Chris Jericho, Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy. Shelton Benjamin, John Morrison, CM Punk, Carlito, and MVP in this match. And it is quite a spectacle of a match.
Wild. It is wild.
There is a spot in there where there is a sunset flip, powerbomb, suplex combo with Sheldon Morrison, and I can't remember who was on the bottom there.
I think CM Punk was.
Punk might have been on the bottom. That was crazy. Morrison is obviously the star of this particular one other than Sheldon, because the star of these things is the guy willing to take the bump. And Morrison does a moonsault with a ladder in his hands onto a group of people.
Yeah.
Sheldon does a flip off the top of a ladder being pushed towards the ropes onto a ladder lying between the apron and the barricade and crushes it with his back. You have the John Morrison in a backstretch of some kind atop the ladder, which evolves into poor John. They stick a ladder inside of another ladder so it won't fall down, and John tries to climb that to get to the...
The letter of the day is V.
Yeah, and so instead they push that. Yeah, the letter that is V, because that's what the two ladders formed. And also, John was in a V when he lands directly on the ropes, because they push those ladders towards the ropes, and John takes the worst nut shot I've ever seen. He goes 10 feet unstopped and lands flat on the ring rope.
I'm sure his tailbone took most of it, I'm telling myself.
That looked god-awful. But then we wind up with the finish where Punk winds up atop the ladder and winning. Jericho is going to win. Everybody thinks Jericho might win. Punk pulls his leg through the ladder, which causes him to get in the tree of woe, hanging upside down from the ladder as Punk ascends to the top, pulls ladder, and he is your Money in the Bank winner. We like this?
Yeah, this match was honestly incredible. Honestly, all of the spots were extremely unique.
Mm-hmm. Especially for that time.
Oh, yeah.
We also had the Matt Hardy run-in.
We had the Matt Hardy run in.
Before we forget.
MVP was in a program with Hardy. He had put Hardy on the shelf. Hardy actually does run in, as you pointed out, Ray.
Yeah. And he hits him with an avalanche twist of fate.
Right.
And then walks out, which it's kind of crazy. The craziest part is that it's like, I noticed that Matt Hardy is not limping. And he's
a young boy.
So weird to see, look back on that.
Yeah. Before the knee operations and before his hips start to fuse together because of that avalanche twist of fate. Like, he used to do guillotine leg drops. All those moves are just your hips slamming on the ground into your backbone, and then then you wonder why these guys hurt when they get older. Now, I thought they did a good job, and I think what you kind of alluded to it a little bit, in that the spots happened by themselves. And there was a little bit of time between each one, so you were able to focus on one thing at a time rather than just constantly being hit with, and like,
it was organized chaos.
And they didn't spend a whole lot of time setting up spots.
They just kind of fell into place.
Right, so you didn't have to wait while this guy sets up a ladder into another ladder. Like, Jericho went to hit somebody in the head, he missed him, he winds up sticking the ladder inside the other ladder, and that's the big funny spot.
That's the thing that happened. Shelton tried to do a move, and then when it didn't work, he just fell to the ground. Okay, then we're gonna do something else now, because there's enough people to be and then I will pick up where you left off.
Right, we can go right back to it. Right. I thought they did a good job of that in that match. Now we have Batista versus Umaga in a house fight, and it is a brand versus brand match. Batista winds up winning on a powerbomb, in which sit down powerbomb, which was his thing, in which the weight of the huge, Umaga gets off center on him, and he's still strong enough to straighten that thing out and get him down flat. And I was amazed. I've always been amazed at that spot, that he did not wind up either falling over backwards, breaking his own back, or dropping Umaga on his head. Because that's a lot of weight. Because you're talking 300 pounds, and it's not in the right direction. He might be closer to 4.
Yeah, that was something I was noticing. Like, that final bit was just like, that was smooth.
What did you think about it, Ray?
Oh, dude, this match is a lot better than it reads on paper.
Right, Umaga's such a good worker, and nobody realizes that.
Oh yeah, Batista's a little overhated too.
Yeah,
like I don't.
I've never heard of that phrase before. Overrated, overhated.
I like it.
Yeah. That. I also feel like, dude, Batista's a good wrestler, man. I just feel
I would hope so. I mean, he is.
I just feel like, because, like,
you came along in a time where it was cool to hate Batista.
When
you were a kid,
I was more. I started watching more Punk, Cena era,
right?
And then when around that time,
when he came back, he wore the blue and it was Batista, that kind of thing, and
everything was just kind of hated. And it's like, dude, the guy can actually wrestle. Dude, when he does that spine buster and he pops right back up. Almost seamlessly. Oh. It's like, dude, oh my god.
It's hype. Right.
It's fun.
He has... It's funny because he does the Ultimate Warrior thing on the ropes when he's about to finish.
He's so much better than Warrior.
Right, but he has that explosiveness, but he's so much better at all the things that matter of selling. He's willing to sell for other people.
That's important.
He's just so much better all the way around than somebody like Warrior. And but he does everything you said. Like, when he does something, it's impactful and it's hype. I mean, he literally is just boom. Oh my God, he's hyped up, and he takes it like that. From the moment you hear his song to the pyro with the machine gun fire he does without a machine gun, it's just, and then he slams his hand down. He's a spectacle upon himself when he comes out there, and he got that part better than a lot of guys would.
Absolutely,
yes.
Now let's move on to the. I don't remember where it is in here, but there is a match we didn't really watch, or 2 matches we didn't really think too much about. There was one, what was it, a Playboy Bunny match?
Yeah,
we skipped that. Okay.
Yeah.
This is before the Divas Revolution.
Okay, and so we're getting to Flair versus Shawn Michaels.
One of the legendary matches.
In a retirement match. The legendary Ric Flair, the greatest wrestler probably of all time. Most people agree on that, or the greatest heel. He's there.
Arguably.
He's there. There's... depending on what you like, but he's
on every Mount Rushmore.
Most wrestlers think he's the greatest of all time, and it's if Flair loses,
and the other greatest wrestler of all time, Shawn Michaels,
right?
Also,
and maybe the greatest in-ring performer, right? At least until Kenny or whatever came along, and people started to think the other way. But leading into this, Flair is saying, "I need to know if I still got it, if I'm going to stay in this."
Also, didn't Shawn reference Old Yeller? Right.
That's later. That as the program's going on, Shawn would eventually reference.
He said something like,
"If you're going to challenge me, then I have to put you down."
He said, "I'm going to treat you like Old Yeller. I'm going to take you to the back of the shed and shoot you."
Yeah, he said. But again, Flair went hunting for him, and he says, "I got to know if I'm the guy, if I can still wrestle on this level." And Shawn's like, "Well, you picked the wrong guy. You know what I mean? Because I'll put you away." And that turns into this match, and the story goes leading into this that there's a couple of stories going on here. One is supposedly Rick didn't necessarily want to retire at that time, and there's different versions of that. I believe you read a book.
Yeah, there's a book called Second Nature where Rick got called by Vince, basically being told, like, when he was feeling... The story of Ric Flair is fascinating. But just the fact that he was just called one day and said, "You're retiring." And he said, "When?" Wrestlemania. Hung up on him. Vince did. And he was just sort of like, "Oh, okay." And he felt like he had unfinished business, but when he got done with the match, he's like, "I can't wrestle in WWE anymore." It was perfect. But then he was like, but he couldn't find his footing as anyone else but being Ric Flair, so he moved along somewhere else. And then his son also wanted to get into wrestling, so we helped him out there.
So he winds up... This doesn't wind up being his last match. It winds up being his last WWE match. But at this moment, we didn't know that. He didn't know that. and he doesn't ever wrestle again in WWE. Now, the story goes, they're backstage, it's WrestleMania, they're about to walk out, they're in gorilla position. Sean can tell that Rick is nervous, and Sean is a little worried about Rick trying to make things better, and Sean has a plan for what's going to happen in the ring, and Sean says, keep your mouth shut out there, do what I tell you, and this will be something you can be proud of. And that's what he does, and Sean calls the perfect retirement wrestling match. They start the thing out with old school hammer locks. Rick gets out of it with the drop toe hold, very classic. He could have started out a Harley Race match with these spots. And then the things Sean asked Rick to do are things that he can do that are big spots for him throughout his career. The things that he no longer physically can do, Sean does for him to remind people of who Rick was the whole time. Sean goes up to the top rope like Rick would always go up to the top rope. Rick grabs him and throws him off like people would always do to Rick. Then he turns right around and he goes to the top rope, hits the double axe handle, which allows him to land on his feet so he doesn't take that bump on his back. As we're telling this story, there has to be a reason why the younger, in his at least match-telling prime, Sean, if not in his physical prime, because he had back surgery. So how do we come up with a way that Sean can be injured enough to lose? Well, so Sean does the springboard moonsault into the announcer's table. Looks like he breaks his ribs.
It's
a
the
horrible
funniest
spot.
shot I've ever. I mean, it's terrible, but it is also the funniest thing.
But now he's hurt, right? And so then Rick starts to work the leg, and he starts to work. So then next thing you know, we get these figure fours, and we get the counters, the old school counters. We get Sean manages to call a match that enables the crowd to think, hey, maybe Rick can pull it out. And when we were watching this the first time a week ago, I'd forgotten how good this match was. Ray said to me something like, just when it looks like Sean's got him dead to rights, the referee gets kind of by him, and Rick back kicks into Sean's groin. So when you think he doesn't have anything left, he's still got one of his dirty tricks because he's the dirtiest player in the game. A couple of moves later, they roll over to the other side. He grabs the turnbuckle, pulls it off, so the referee has to grab the turnbuckle and try to put it back on. Thumb to the eye. He reminds, every little thing that Rick has done for 40 years to stay relevant, they keep pulling those things back, just to keep pulling you in to let you know it could happen. It could happen, yes.
I do also feel like, though, that roughly, if I don't know if it's by the first or second Sweet Chin Music, but like, there are two, and he doesn't go for the cover on either of them because he's too tired, which is the right way to do it.
Well, he was getting hurt. He was getting hurt.
He was in pain.
The super kick was a retaliation out of nowhere. So they both collapsed.
And also, the second one was one Flair couldn't really get up from either, so the third one was just really...
Yeah.
Well,
that's
but also, I feel like there is that like almost pinpoint moment where you realize that Flair's used basically every trick he has.
Yeah.
And he has no more, and God knows how many Sean has left, right?
Right. Well, and that's the key, right, is that after Flair goes to the eye, now we're on the home stretch. And as Rick tries to put him away, Sean tries to take advantage of of the damage he's done. Sean hits the super kick out of nowhere and just backs into the corner. And Rick stumbles to his feet, and he's going to go out. He's going to go out on his shield. He's going to, you're going to have to put me down. I'm not going to do this. And he says, come on. Yes.
Then cuts one of the most famous moments in wrestling ever.
Yes.
Where Sean says, I'm sorry, I love you. And then he just kicks
him right in the face.
Off.
What's crazy is it was also like Rick's face of just saying, come on.
Bring it.
Come on.
Put me down. Put me down.
And I give Jerry Lawler a lot of crap for what he usually does on commentary. But that moment where Jerry, it's not even like a, it's just,
Yeah.
It's just like...
Yeah, and they were so hyped the whole time. So when that belief leaves your body.
It was like, it wasn't really like a huge reaction.
Right.
The crowd didn't even react that much.
No, because they were hurt. Everybody was hurt. Rick, it's over. Rick's over. They were so hyped
Jerry,
up, and then out of nowhere was
Jerry,
the pop.
within that one, not even word, just kind of encapsulated everyone's feeling.
Right. Right, with a moan.
Oh.
And then as Sean, after Sean pins him, he flips over immediately and whispers something in his ear, which I'm sure they'll both take to their graves, and then rolls out of the ring so that the crowd can give Rick what he deserves, which is an incredible ovation for this fine performance.
Yeah.
What did you say when we watched it the other day for the first time?
I said, okay. I said,
What did you say?
Right now,
Okay.
Dave Meltzer is just like, the mind games to see how this wasn't 5 stars is just kind of like rolling through his head.
What did you call it that night? You said the mental
gymnastics.
That's what he said.
That's what Jared says.
He said the mental gymnastics it would take to not give that
Listen,
5
as
stars.
fantastic as it was, I didn't listen. Where were the callbacks to the match?
To the what?
To the match.
The
Match.
he's
It's like saying like he's making up a match.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I'm
he
sorry.
was-
Nick has to explain the joke. That's how you know.
I'm sorry. I thought you were actually telling something.
No, it went over about as well as a fart in church.
Yeah,
It's
my bad.
okay.
My
It's
bad
all
on
right. The rock and roller of stinking up joke soda. That's right. That's me.
All right. So we'll move on to now. They had a Big Show versus
Floyd
The
Mayweather.
Big
Mayweather
Show.
match, and we
We skipped over that. It doesn't really
I
matter.
decided I'm good. That's what I said.
It's not even
I'm
really a
good.
match at this point, you know?
well, it was also, I don't know, whatever. That was whatever. That whole program was whatever. But it is something that is WrestleMania. That's what they
Yeah.
do. They bring in
That's
people
what-
outside.
and we
of
got the
WrestleMania,
stars.
and yes, and Floyd is a huge, huge star, and Big Show is a huge man. And the fact that they had
What if a big
Floyd beat
man
him is
So
crazy.
right
A
now,
big star.
Right now, we're going after the... You can say it.
The game?
The game. Right?
Are we about to
The
play
next
the game?
match is...
Are we playing the game?
Time to play the game.
I don't know the song. All I know is that.
Yes. We got Triple H, Randy Orton, who is the champ, against John Cena in a triple threat match for the title. And what did you think about this match?
It's first off, superstar packed.
Yeah.
By the way,
Firstly, yes.
like
Secondly, they did not like Jonathan.
Like there was a decade where one of those dudes always had a belt. You know
there's
what I
a
mean?
decade where all of those dudes like always had a belt,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and two of those superstars always had the belt in the same decade.
Mm-hmm.
They're all household names that you would know outside of wrestling. That's this kind of
Right. Absolutely. And great performer.
This was a really great, again, underrated match.
Well, you had the undercurrent of Hunter bringing Orton along to be the next big thing in wrestling, and him
But
actually
also
becoming that.
Randy being Hunter's kind of kryptonite
Absolutely.
in a way.
Absolutely.
Because Hunter has already taught Randy Orton's Triple H has already taught Randy Orton every trick Triple H has.
Yes, I see.
Right?
Yes, I see.
That's what I was trying to get across there.
Well, and that winds up being the finish, right?
Absolutely.
And so what we have, and of course, they both have issue with Cena, but there are moments in the match where you can tell that Orton and Hunter have worked together. There are moments in the match where you can tell that Orton, and then you have this, Orton Cena winds up being a great rivalry for history, and they have a few 2-minute one-on-one matches, and then Hunter winds up having a few really good little one-on-one matches with both of them, and then the finish is Hunter actually swinging the momentum of his one-on-one match with Cena to the point where he can hit a pedigree. Yeah. Before that, he turns and kicks Randy in the knee, or gives him a shoulder block in the knee, which is an ode to Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Then as Cena gets him up for the F5, he slips out the back, pedigree, boom, he's going for the cover. Orton comes through, Punk kicks him in the head, which is, I had one more trick in my bag than you.
Yeah.
Triple H falls off of Cena, Orton falls on, 1, 2, 3, perfect finish for a really good match, right?
Absolutely. And I feel again, match, considering the stars in here, I don't know how this is kind of
5
not
moves
talked
of doom, son.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, you know what though too is people have never given Hunter the credit he deserves as an in-ring performer.
People have never
given Cena the credit he deserves.
Some people give Cena the credit he deserves, but the other half don't.
Right.
And everybody gives Randy the credit he deserves. Like everyone.
Right. The only criticism they've ever had of Randy is sometimes he doesn't.
Sometimes he doesn't try.
Right.
He gets a break.
In his defense, though, everybody else has left and come back, and he has stayed on the roster the whole time. Yes. Now we have a main event, and what a main event it is!
The main event.
The Undertaker versus Edge. Backstory. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to talk about the match. You can talk about the backstory.
I just was going to talk a little bit about. I wasn't going to talk about Edge throwing Paul Bearer down a flight of steps. I was going to talk about the fact that Edge.
Is that what happened?
Edge is solidifying himself right now as a main event player.
Yeah,
he's there, but Taker's the measuring stick, and Edge is in the middle of this run that's going to lead him into a thing where he and Cena are the two biggest names in wrestling at that moment, right?
Yeah.
And
who is he? He Edge and Cena or Taker and Cena?
Edge and Cena. That's where he's going from here, and this is what puts him on that. Undoubtedly, you've headlined main eventer. Not only have you main evented WrestleMania, you did it with Taker, and you had a banger, and then you have Taker, who was about to go on a run with 2 match of the years with Shawn and 2 match of the years with Hunter. So he's about to get on the best run of his career in matches, even though he's a little bit older. And as you said earlier, I don't recall Taker being in jeopardy like this in a WrestleMania till then. And every match after that, he does get in jeopardy, except for the one Bray Wyatt where Bray had a broken ankle before they even started or twisted.
At least I can't recall. Now I do know the match before this was with Batista, and that might have gotten a little close. But I don't remember that any match before this Edge match got as, like, it got super close at points where you're like, is it actually, like...
Is it over?
And it was at that exact sweet spot where everybody was kind of thinking, all right, Taker's been
it's just
the guy for a while.
Man. Like, he can't go for
he can't go forever.
He's been winning straight for 16 years.
Right.
15 and then 16 by this time.
Right.
Yeah.
That might be.
And an interesting thing, too, is I remember Cole said that Edge doesn't go to the top rope much anymore.
No.
And I thought, wow, that's really crazy. Think about the way he changed as a wrestler to get away from being the spot guy to being the storyteller as a competitor, because he and Christian are table, ladders, and chairs.
Yeah.
And he changes who he is as a performer to become a storyteller. But he's still, in this match, he has to go up top because he's not wrestling a normal guy. He's wrestling Taker. He's got to do everything he can.
Taker does, guy, and this is an abnormal spot for Edge because Edge is a very tall dude.
And this man is taller.
He's bigger in every way and more athletic. When Taker jumps over the top rope, we've seen it a million times, but he's
bigger
freak.
And faster.
Right.
So Edge has to pull out some new
Going
stops.
full Daft Punk, bigger, faster, stronger. Is that the lyrics?
No, it's harder, faster, stronger.
Yes,
that's
yes. That is my music joke of the day once again.
Just
Martin Church.
but go ahead.
In general, I feel like because of the fact that, and I complain a lot about shenanigans, but I feel like this match kind of does it right.
Absolutely.
In a weird way. In a way
because that's what makes you believe you can lose.
That's almost the only way.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You can't kill a dead man without, camera shot.
Referee gets knocked out.
Referee knocked out.
He hits his finish. It takes Charles Robinson a while. Big ups. Charles Robinson ran about 500 yards.
My man
slid into the ring effortlessly. One,
man.
2. Edge kicks out on 3. That turns into the Edge heads running up there. Now all of a sudden there's all kind of shenanigans going on. Taker gets rid of both of them, walks into an impaler. It's that. You know what I mean? It's that makes you think, well, this is how wrestling matches go. This is when things go wacky and the favorite loses.
Yes.
And because they put it in right there, like you said, the shenanigans were perfect.
And also, we don't talk about the match after this, which is the Shawn Taker match.
Yeah.
Now, the fact is that with this match, Shawn saw chinks in the armor.
Right.
Right? He saw the fact that Taker could have lost. There was a very open door.
He
Where
didn't
Taker-
completely do the sit up. He did a groan.
He rolled out
Yeah.
of the pin. Yes, actually,
Yeah,
absolutely
he
did.
was-
sit it.
Yes.
And he didn't finish. He didn't finish with the tombstone. He was he had him dead to rights. Edge had him dead to rights, and after he speared him a second time, and he grabbed him and put him into Hell's Gates, and he wound up tapping, which is a different finish altogether.
it was a
I didn't
last-ditch effort.
overpower you.
You could tell.
I caught you.
It was a last-ditch effort by Taker. He had done nothing else. There was nothing else he could have done. So when Sean came along, and Sean thought, I might be able to run a little faster than Edge and get through this door.
Right.
I might.
Right. I'm Mr. WrestleMania, by golly.
I'm not going to get caught in that.
If
You know
anybody's
what?
going to break the streak, it's Mr. WrestleMania.
And you know what? He should have just broke out in F5, man.
And if you the WrestleMania, the WrestleMania I was at, in Georgia,
Georgia.
You fought Hunter, right?
Yeah, but at that point, it was like he was really able to. He went to that chokehold, the Hell's Gates, over and over again. You know, and that's another aspect of Taker that people forget is he did manage to, when MMA became a thing, he learned a couple of moves. You know what I mean? Just nothing that would take him away from being the dead man.
Yeah.
But enough to keep him relevant.
Well, the fact that it's called Hell's Gate.
That's a
Yeah.
spooky thing to say.
So
It works.
Did we like this pay-per-view? I thought it was really fun.
That was terrible. Okay, yeah, of course it was good. Of course it was great.
I think it was good enough. I want to do a couple more of these at some point.
Oh, I'm smelling a new segment, boys.
Absolutely.
What about you?
I love this pay-per-view.
Wait, you said what?
I love this pay-per-view. I feel like it's.
You love something so long.
I feel like it's.
He didn't even say it during Christmas. You got gifts? Ah, it's all right. Santa did all right.
Next.
You laugh. My mom's gonna listen to this and be like, I remember when Nick did the same gosh darn thing. Where's mine? I know, Mom. Thank you.
And honestly, I said I liked the present you gave me.
I know you
but,
did.
I feel like this is arguably this is one of my favorite manias. I haven't seen every single WrestleMania. I haven't even seen WrestleMania X7. We might do that someday. We might do X7 one day. I don't know if it's at
Sure, we will someday.
Someday. Should we?
We're not going away.
No.
You can
We
try
ain't
to knock us out.
Going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere.
Huh?
Puffy.
See, that joke also went down like a fart in church. So, I don't feel so bad.
Yeah, but there's people all over the airwaves laughing their
Okay,
faces
but how
off
come
right now.
they get to laugh at yours but not mine? I know, hold on. I like
All
that.
right. For this has been a Go Home Heat production, copyright 2020 for me, KP.
For me, Ray.
There's other lost ark. I'm bringing it. You let Nick.
That was so funny.
Copyright 2020.
Go home. Okay, we're good.